right. How's everybody doing this morning? Yeah, not a joke. I have a lot of cool microscopes. Hello, ominously ominous. How's things going? I'm tinkering around right now with the sea star that we were talking about in Pacific Plankton's channel very briefly. And just kind of browsing around the edges of it. Here, let me make it a little bit clearer what we're looking at. And kind of a neat landscape to look at something that's big, you know, big enough that you could pick it up. This one, it basically is about a centimeter in size. Oh look, we got raided by Pacific Plankton. I'm so surprised. How's everybody doing? I would ask you how your stream went, Pacific, but I was there for the whole thing, so I know how it went. Thank you for bringing people over, though. That's a nice way to start off a stream with a bunch of people. Yes, raid. Look at that. We have a really nice community of scientific streamers, so if you... it's a good way to start, yeah. So if you're coming from Pacific Plankton's channel and you're coming to my channel and you like scientific streams or streams related with like microorganisms, I have a whole squad of people who you might be interested in following. Here's a bunch of them. You know, it's a great selection of streamers in there. Some of them were in Pacific Plankton stream earlier, including myself and Nid and Spider AD. So all really great options for people who use microscopes in stream. Not all of it is basically identical. Some of those streamers are they're also musicians, and they have like microscopes and play instruments at the same time sometimes. Yeah, open set, exactly. Or Freckled Science, she uses a microscope occasionally, so not like every stream, whereas basically every stream for me and Pacific Plankton, we're either looking at things in a microscope or we're looking at things outside that are sciencey, naturey things. Sometimes she does little streams from outdoors. I haven't seen one of those in a while. I also haven't done any outdoor streams in a while. This is actually a sea star, or what they used to call a starfish when I was a kid, that is an invader in the fish tank in our department. And I'm going to change the speed setting so that it's so I'm able to move around, and then I'm going to zoom out to the minimum magnification so you can kind of get a sense of where we are. We were in this zone right here in the middle. We were just looking at the edge of one leg, and I can kind of move us around. You can see um, the whole sea star that way. It's redrawing the image for us a little bit at a time, so it sometimes takes a while for us to move around. I could speed it up, but then it's even grainier. Just that's the way SEMs work. And you can see they have a bunch of little interlocking plates, exactly as Pacific Plankton had described them in her channel. And normally I don't, I try really hard not to sacrifice animals. Because these are invasive in the fish tank and they can't get rid of them, there are a constant cluster of little tiny baby sea stars that are all over the glass all the time, and then they scrape them and then just dump them. So I asked them if they were going to dump them anyways actually, I don't know where they go from here. Presumably they somehow get strained out, but hopefully some responsible way of getting rid of things. But these were bound to die anyway. So I took some of them home and let my daughter have some, which they're in a little container, and it's got salt water, so they'll probably last a few days like that, I'm not sure, but it's a little bit longer than they would have had if they got disposed of. And then this one got the SEM. So I will probably have the additional material to look at the underside of a sea star. I only mounted one today because I had sacrificed one of them for the SEM, and I rinsed it in a little bit of fresh water to get the salt water off of it. And let's actually just get a nice sort of overview shot of it, because it's kind of cool like this. And I'm just going to move it just a little bit so you can get a little bit more of the star in the field of view, just for like aesthetic purposes. And I adjust the brightness and contrast, so we should be able to, yeah, it was bound to die. So we should be able to get a nice clean image of that, and then I'll just start that picture. So if you haven't seen the scanning electron microscope before, or this is your first time in the channel, it's possible. What it's doing is it's hitting the sea star with an electron beam, and everything underneath it with an electron beam. And then the electrons are basically fired into the specimen, and some electrons actually make it out of the specimen. They bounce back out, and it knocks loose basically electrons that are inside the specimen, and these radiate out from the surface where the beam hits, and then it collects them with a positively charged anode, basically with a photo a thing in there that basically turns the electrons that hit it into brightness, and the more electrons that hit it, the brighter that spot is. And then some magic happens as it scans over the samples, each one of those giving a collection of bright or dark dots that it puts in as a pixel, right? And then sketches its way across the sample, going light dot, medium dark dot, and then it composes an image from that. So I didn't take a picture and then it's downloading the image and we're watching it download, which is the way that some people think that they're used to, sort of, I don't know, slow internet or something. We're not in a slow internet state. We're in the state of, this is the speed that the beam is scanning across the sample. And we can make it scan faster, but then the image doesn't have as much information coming back. So there's a balance between Whether we want to move the sample around, which is what I do when I set it to one of the faster speeds, or do we want to take a picture and have a nice, clean, highly resolved image? So it's just a balance between those two things. And it's the speed at which the resolution that we've selected is the speed that it gives us the image at. So I don't know a whole lot about sea stars. I'm not a starfish expert, but Pacific Plankton was talking a little bit about them earlier. And the closest I've ever been to a sea star is, I'm pretty sure we dissected one when I was in high school. It doesn't seem like a thing that would be that interesting to dissect, but I'm pretty sure that we did. So I must have learned quite a bit about it at some point. The bottoms on the underside have little slots where they have a whole bunch of little sort of sucker-like feet that stick out. And in the center they have a stomach inside their body. And if I remember correctly, they spit the stomach inside of things that they want to digest, and it acidifies and putrefies things, and then they pull it all back inside their body. Kind of a weird eating habit. But they're predators, right? So they're going through trying to find things to eat and pry them open with their super strong arms and spit their stomach into them, I think that's how they work. Evert their stomach, yes. But they have a really hard time with vacuums, so inside the vacuum of my SEM, they don't do so well. Pretty sure this one was dead before we started. I had, as I said, I rinsed it in fresh water, and then what else did I do? I put it on a hot plate temporarily to get the water off of it, dry it out before we put it in the SEM, because we don't really want water or wet things. Okay, so this is a sort of overview of the whole thing. You can see some of the arms there, and then, yeah, the little overlapping plates. And they have kind of like distinctions around the margins, and their eyes are located, I think, out here on the tips of each of their arms. They have kind of like an eye-like structure. So we'll take a look at some of this middle part here a little more closely at the plates, and then we'll go out to the edge and look at some of this edge material, and then maybe we'll see if we can get one of the arms and look into the eye area to see what's going on in there. So all right, bear with me as we zoom in to someplace much closer than where we were. You can see the plates themselves. And there's, we're still kind of far out. Right now we're only at 184 times magnification, which means you would be able to see in a light microscope or a stereo microscope. This is kind of on the edge of the limits for stereo microscopes in most cases, so there's nothing sort of outside the bounds of a really low-powered microscope that you couldn't see here. But it's nice to have some context for things when we take pictures. Try to get some idea of what we're looking at. So the overview is nice because then I can kind of say, well, here we're in this central part, because as soon as you zoom in, you kind of lose track of, where are we and what are we looking at. So I'm just going to balance the brightness and contrast, because when we change elevations, there's different aspects of it that we'll need to adjust for, and some areas may seem a little bit brighter, especially when there's a lot of little spiny things. They tend to be kind of brighter Um, so the the light and dark, the sort of shadow effect that you see, is a result of the fact that the um, the sensor inside the scanning electron microscope is actually, if you look in the little um, chamber view that's down below me, um, it's off to one side. It's at an angle. And that means that some parts of whatever you're looking at are on the backside, away from it, and fewer of the electrons make it to the sensor for those points. And so it looks like a shadow. Yeah, it's not a true eye. It's like a light sensor, but we think of them as eye spots, yeah. So when I was little, I thought sea stars had to have like 5 arms, because a lot of the ones that you see actually do have 5 arms. And then, you know, they obviously don't. Stepped away for 30 minutes, and the broadcaster and the mod switched. Yeah, we reversed. Was a streamer inversion, and the moderator suddenly became the streamer, and the streamer became the moderator. Hey, Dell is here. Hi, Dell. Let me give a shout out to Dell. Give a shout out to Joseph. Like this. Yeah. I am too fast. Well, I happen to be looking at the OBS screen so I can see comments. Like the Tea Party in Wonderland, exactly. So we're looking at a sea star, Del, from the aquarium here in the department. And we are in a bit of a wonderland. This landscape is the surface of interlocking plates on the outside of the sea star. And we did take a picture of, here, I think I can, I don't know, oh, this is the wrong thing, that's what I was going to say. Where's my open button? There we go. I can show you. Here's what we took a picture of, and we're in this part right here. Somewhere in the middle, there's this thing, I think. You can kind of see the structure. Hang on a second. Here, you can see that same structure. I don't know what those things are, or really what any of these things are. A bit of a mystery to me, but you can see a lot of the detail of it. There's some distinction here because these are the plates, right? They overlap with each other, and then there's little holes here, 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 and then there's little holes with beveled edges, and there's also these like spiny structures around on the plates themselves, and then sometimes there's these things. So I don't know. Pacific maybe can help us with what are these things. What are the parts that you can distinguish? You can see that part, I can slow it down a little. That part that's there is also here and here and here and here and here. It's kind of repeated around the center part of the sea star. All right, let's actually zoom over to one of the edges here. We'll look at a close-up of one of the legs. Let's kind of do it this way, where we're in the spot where they join, so we can kind of maximize the number of cool leggy spine bits. So the spines that you see on the top of the plates actually just become a little bit more numerous, I think, as you get towards the edges. It's basically the same structure. These same structures that are here, these little spiny bits that stand up, they just get taller and become more numerous around the edges. And I'm going to slow it down and then do the auto brightness and contrast. Very cool little nodules, yeah. Ossicles. Ossicles? What's an ossicle? We'll zoom in and look at one of these things up close. We can look at some of these spines up close as well. Ossicle, like osteo, like bony bit. Icicle made out of bone. Yeah, okay, good. Alright, let's look good. Take a picture. Small calcareous elements embedded in the dermis or body of the wall of echinoderms. They form part of the endoskeleton and provide rigidity and protection. Bone icicles. Perfect. So is the skeleton of a sea star entirely calcareous? I never really thought about what are they made of. I suppose they have to be. The other echinoderms, like sea urchins, are definitely calcareous. So I would guess these are probably also calcareous. So like all organisms in the sea that are calcareous, sea stars could potentially be threatened by global warming. Probably the greater threat in a lot of ways in global warming is not the warming, but the fact that the ocean is absorbing a ton of carbon dioxide, and it leads to ocean acidification. So the pH of the ocean has actually changed quite a bit from over the last couple decades, and it's become more acidic, more obviously acidic, and there's a huge buffer in the ocean because there's a ton of bicarbonate in the water, which is acting as a buffer, and that buffer is basically the only reason we're still alive. Not to be dramatic, but the oceans have absorbed a ton of heat and a bunch of the carbon dioxide, and without that buffer, effectively, the oceans would have acidified, and then all marine life probably would have died by this point. And when that happens, basically everything goes south for everybody because they generate a bunch of the oxygen, and then you have a whole bunch of interlinked systems. So yeah, it's a potential world killer, and it's the one that people don't really think about. They think about, oh, well, who cares if it's a little warmer in the wintertime? There's other problems associated with global warming that are an issue with just being a little bit warmer in the wintertime, but the one that's a real threat and the one that people don't really have any response to with like, oh, well, we'll just fix it, because we really can't just fix it. And once it gets completely out of balance, then everything goes sideways. So, all right, these look really cool. These little, there's little like portals here you can see into the inside. That's neat. Okay, I'm going to save this little bit. Arms. And we will zoom in as we do. Now it looks like we're suddenly up close and personal with some sort of weird spiny demon. I guess if you didn't feel that way before, potentially you feel that way about him now. If you saw the what is that anti-hero movie with Harley Quinn and all the other characters, the Suicide Squad. The latest Suicide Squad movie has a sea star alien as the bad guy, the world-destroying bad guy is a sea star, a cute little sea star with an eye in the middle of its head for some reason, but is also deadly. And I think it shoots rays out of its eye and something else. Little missiles came out. I don't think those things happen in real sea stars, but kind of cool to see, you know, a bad guy who's just like a starfish, basically. Alright. Picture collection is now happening. Zwei, hello. It will fix itself, yeah. We will probably be gone, and then it will fix itself. The world will be fine. It's just the creatures on the planet that will have the trouble. Too early on a weekend for death and destruction. We had a sea star wasting syndrome here, and so many died. Well, a bunch died in the fish tank as a result of being ejected from it. Probably fewer than the ones that you lost, but here they're in a controlled environment. They're hard to keep from taking over everything, because there's no predator for the sea stars in the aquarium. But in nature there is. Working on a Saturday. Is this work? But yes, I'm working. After I'm done with this, I've got to fix up a poster for Laura. She's going to the Geological Society of America meeting this week, as is my other graduate student, Addison, and I already helped Addie with her poster. I've been helping Laura and Addie with their presentations. They're going to Portland for the annual meeting for the Geological Society of America, and they're going to present on their diatom research. Look at that window. You can see like straight on into the sea star. So that's pretty cool. This is my lab that you're looking into, Nid. The normal scanning electron microscope lab. They don't let me take the scanning electron microscope home. Also, it wouldn't fit into my car. But, yeah, I'm working. I worked last weekend, the entire weekend. I was on a field trip on Saturday last weekend, and then Sunday I came into the lab and processed some samples and worked on some research objective stuff. And then yesterday we actually had fall break, and I was in working. because when students are gone, it's actually easier for me to get things done. So I was in the lab circling new species so that I could send the samples to a museum and then describe them. And I actually went through one of them, and I described them yesterday. So, like, literally wrote out the description, which is kind of cool. All right, let's. You want to look at these little nubs, or you want to look at these spiny things? I guess we could do either one. We can kind of move out towards the ends. And maybe I can hit all three of those things at once.
Daddy is cute, Daddy is strong, Daddy is brave, and Daddy will not stop.
Some sort of little star on top of the star fractal action going on. This is probably how they form, like initially. Wait, what just happened? Hang on. Something happening here. Oh, paleontologizing's here. Okay, good. Hey, Paleo. How's it going? Thank you for this subscription. We're doing a fun little stream from my lab, from my SEM lab, which is actually, this is what I do on Saturdays. If I come in on a Saturday, it's usually from the scanning electron microscopes. This is my scanning electron microscope lab. And then sometimes I stream from home, which is the ones that you more commonly see because it's later at night. And you're one of those Pacific Coast streamers, right? So pretty awesome SEM images. Yeah, we're looking at a sea star right now up close. And it's a sea star from our West Coast, Best Coast. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. We don't have a coast here. So I'm excluded, but, you know. Yes, so we have an aquarium, actually a student-run aquarium here at the in our department. And these sea stars are invaders to the aquarium. And they take over the place if you let them go. So they cleaned it yesterday because no one was around because we were on fall break. And I came in and saw them cleaning, and I was like, oh, can I have one of those? And they gave me a bunch of them. So you can see that it's charged up a little in here. It's very bright. And that's because there's a whole bunch of little spiny things. They're just armored creeping stomachs. Yeah, that's pretty much what they are. They've got these cool little spiny covered plates that are interlinked or overlapping. And then on the underside, like a million legs, right? And then they're clustered together into these arms that are used to like rip open mollusks and stuff so they can barf their stomach into the inside of them and then digest them from the inside out and then slurp it back into their body. So if you need some really graphic Saturday morning visceral discussion about how sea stars eat, that's how they eat. Pretty graphic, really. But they that's what they do. It's kind of cool, I think. The feet run in a ambulacral groove. Yeah, they've got like a little opening, a slit, and they have all these little tiny feet in them, like they use to march along. They move very slowly as a result. Speaking of echinoderms, do they exhibit radial symmetry on a small scale too? Yeah. Actually, I was just saying, there's this this little part of the, I think this is one of these little ossicles or whatever that's forming, or maybe it's one of these little nubs, but this is like one that didn't completely form. So I think they actually have like a radial symmetry associated with these little nub things here. It's just that it's not obvious to us because we don't see the whole structure as it's being sort of constructed. And then this is like the longer spines, which you can't see in this image, but oh, maybe you can. They're up at the top. So we're, for reference, because so we're up in here looking at basically where the eye port is, the little eye spots. Is the bright spot, I think, where we are. And then you can see there's some radial like symmetry to these things as well. It's just, it's not obvious, but you know, like little clusters of things, but they seem like there's some sort of radial symmetry. It's just like a little past what our brain can comprehend because it's in 3 dimensions. So let's look really closely at some of these. You can see this sort of structure to the spines. They have some sort of radial structure, you know, like an Eiffel Tower with radiating spokes or something. Kind of interesting. And then, no, it's fine. When you look at them in a light microscope, so the way that I actually normally see echinoderms as a geologist is like things like sea urchin spines and such in thin section. So more typically, that's sort of the way that I interact with them as a geologist. And they're actually really interesting. So in my carbonate petrology classes when I was in grad school, I always thought the echinoderms were the neatest things because the crystals of the calcite are all perfectly oriented the same way, and they're microcrystalline, like a whole bunch of really tiny little crystals, and they're all oriented exactly the same way. And so on a petrographic microscope, when you rotate the stage and you have the polarizer in, the whole echinoderm flashes at once, so it goes optically extinct at the same time. And what's cool about that is that in limestones where you have echinoderms, there's a lot of times there's pore spaces around the fossil, and either it's primary or secondary pore spacing, but when the cement forms that holds the rock together, it's usually calcite, and the calcite, because it has all these little tiny crystals that are all exactly the same orientation, crystallizes on the echinoderm fragments preferentially. And then the cement is all oriented the same way as the echinoderm spines are, all the little crystals of calcite in the echinoderm spines are. And so when you rotate the stage, not only does the echinoderm flash and go extinct at the same time because all of the calcite crystals are in identical optical orientation, but the cement will do it too. It's called poikilotopic cement. Basically, it's like the thing that's inside of the cement boundary controls the orientation of the crystals, which then causes them to all go optically extinct at the same time. So, pieces of exploded crinoids, yeah. But that's basically a characteristic of the echinoderms, and so when you see them in thin section, it's usually in these poikilotopic cements, and the whole stage will flash, basically, if there's a bunch of them, because they'll all be oriented, you know, like with the cement. Very cool. So there's a big word for you. All right, let's see. We've been sort of bouncing around looking at these things. This is basically the eye port right here. I don't think we can actually see the eye, but you can see how there's a structure here that's different than the surrounding parts. It's actually harder to see when you're up close somewhat, right? That this is distinctly a little bulb. But when you get out, you kind of see the pattern of the plates repeating, and then it's very obvious that that one is different. These little juvenile sea stars also have, like, their arms aren't the same length yet. So there's like longer arms and short, fat arms. This one is very stubby, for example. All these over here are very stubby. But if we went and looked at the arm ends, you'll see they should all have that same, the same eye structure, sort of eye spot component. In nature, or in light microscope, or even in hand sample, you could see this thing was kind of a tan color. We don't have color because we're looking at stuff with a scanning electron microscope, but the legs and the middle part of the body had sort of a reddish cast to them. I might try to put some on the stereo microscope when the ones that are at home that my daughter has got in a little jar from the cleaning, that when they actually die, I mean, they're not going to live for very long in there. But basically, when she's done looking at them and they're dead, I will bring one in and we can look at it in the stereo microscope, or maybe I'll just take some pictures in the stereo microscope and post them to the Discord, so you can see what the organism looks like. And then maybe I'll do another stream. I'm guessing I'll do one on Wednesday with the underside, so we can flip over the sea star and see what it looks like on the bottom. So I'm gonna get one nice sort of overview shot here, but I want to zoom in and get the focus right, and then I'll zoom back out and take the photo, do the composition part. This is actually how I take real photos as well. I start zoomed in, super tight focus, and then I zoom out, and sometimes I bother to compose it. Most of the time I actually just compose it by cropping it later, because digital cameras produce giant images with lots of ability to crop and still keep the photo pretty decent. So speed 7. Oh, we've been working at beam intensity 5. We've been getting nice, highly resolved images as a result. I didn't even notice. Last time I used it, I had something very tiny on there. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty neat to be able to look at some everyday objects in the scanning electron microscope that aren't just diatoms. I mean, I, of course, greatly enjoy looking at diatoms. And we do have some samples on here that have diatoms. So the carousel that you see below me, I guess it's over here, has some little metal stubs that are the ones that are blocking our view of the sea star inside the SEM, because those are actually the diatom samples, and they're on these little metal cylinders that are a little taller. So we'll eventually bounce over and look at some of those, but the next thing I want to look at is actually the mosquito. So, hey Maddie, how's it going? Let's check out the sieve plate. Oh, okay. There's like one part on here that looked a little bit like a sieve plate we can go look at. Jans, where you been? How you doing? exactly. The madreporite, or sieve plate, is composed of a bunch of grooves, which are each in turn a part of a porous calcium carbonate plate covered with pores. Pores on pores. So those are those things we saw earlier from zoomed way out. We saw little like sieve plate looking things. Is that what you're talking about? Or are they these little guys? Because those don't look actually like plates. I thought we saw something that looked like a plate earlier. It was closer towards the middle, though. So yeah, this is the eye structure, or the eye spot structure. And then you can really see the plates and how they look like little overlapping platelets right here. On the central disc, okay. Doing good. Took a couple of Fridays off, so should be able to join the stream a bit more often. Swell. No time to say hi. Well, we take people whenever they have time, you know. It's a luxury to have people hang out in the stream with me while I look at stuff. I suspect if I wasn't streaming, I would still be looking at little tiny things, even if it was just me and Pac in here. This is pretty cool to look at for me. So, this is 1, 2. Central plate, and we'll move up to the central plate. See if we can find a sieve plate. Is it this thing? Oh, these are cool. This thing it? Looks a little bit like a sieve plate. Some sort of like slightly differentiated component, and then there's these little openings. All of them have kind of a similar, like a similar kind of blueprint to them. But you can see that this little plate is different than all of the other ones. You think it would be bigger? Well, let's take a picture of this, and then if we're wrong, we can find something that looks bigger. I didn't see anything else. What we're looking at today is sort of things that Pacific Plankton suggested when she was here. So she came to visit, I guess it was a week ago? 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago on Saturday. And then she said, oh, we should look at a sea star in the SEM. And I was like, okay, we can do that. And then she caught me a mosquito. Because I never think to catch mosquitoes, I just kill them, because I'm a savage, and when things bite me, I smash them. It doesn't matter what they are. My cat, smash. My daughter, smash. Stop biting me is my instinct. So... so we got a mosquito, and then I've got also some of Pacific Plankton's samples that we looked at a little bit while she was here. I think maybe we spent one stream looking at them, but we were kind of jumping around a lot, and there were a lot of things in there that I thought we still hadn't completely explored. So, put them back in. You have a tolerance for being bitten? Well, everybody has their own thing. Yeah, there was a lot of must be tongue when you bite your tongue and lip, and then you have to smash yourself. Yes, I'm very careful not to bite myself, just to keep from having to smash myself. Creates additional problems. Do you bite your lip or your tongue frequently, Micah? Because I feel like you kind of have to work at it. Tongue's a little easier than your lips. I feel like your lip is kind of a thing you have to, you know, it's on the outside of my mouth. The tongue's on the inside. It's a little bit easier to get. You always bite your tongue? Like literally or proverbially? I'm calling it weird plate. And then we'll get an expert. Someone who knows what they're talking about. When it comes to sea stars. Yeah, these are just those little things that we looked at earlier, I think. There's a whole bunch of them. There's a ring of them. And then we're into the leggy bits. So, like, this is the central plate right here, the central part. There's not much else. I don't see any special parts that aren't the one that we just looked at. That's the same thing. This one's the same. That one's the same. That's all we got. So, maybe it hasn't developed it yet. In a way that we can see. Because these are babies, right? Well, it was. Before it bit me and I had to kill it. Kind of an interesting. I think that's just a bit of junk on there from the fish tank, actually. Alright, well, I don't have anything else that I can see on here. Oh, I know Christopher. We're Facebook friends. No, Instagram friends. No, Twitter friends. He always retweets my pictures, and he probably would be the person to ask. Should have invited him in personally, and then we could have him talk about stuff instead of me just guessing at things. That would require planning. So maybe when I look at the underside, we'll do that. We'll get one middle picture here. And then we'll move on and look at the mosquito next. That sounds like a good plan. People maybe want to see what a mosquito looks like. Pre-smashed mosquito. Because I don't think you smashed it, did you? Or did you just, like, how did you get it to die? Oh, you captured it, and then when you got up in the morning, it was dead, right? So, suffocated it or something. Slightly
Nothing is
barbaric.
impossible. Not if you can imagine.
Thank you for the follow, UU5DX. We've had a busy morning. Started with the raid from Pacific Plankton. And then, I didn't even give her a shout out or anything, now that she's here. Boom. You captured it, yes. Well, I have to give, you have to go follow Pacific Plankton, because she's never going to catch up with me if I keep getting followers, and then she doesn't get at least as many followers. So do your part, go follow Pacific Plankton, and eventually she'll catch up. Hopefully. And then pass me. That's my plan. But I colorized this, and I used the Adobe's neural tool that tries to figure out what the thing is. I wonder if it can tell it's a sea star. Like if I used this picture, if it would be like, this is a sea star, and then colorized it like a sea star. Picking up the crumbs. How are we going to find our way back if you pick up the crumbs? You're going to lead us straight to that evil witch. She's going to cook us in an oven. Then put us on the SEM. Alright, we did this sea star. I feel like we got all the pictures of all the things on the outside. And maybe on Wednesday, if the sea stars at home have died, I will bring some in and we'll look at the bottom side so you can see their cool little feet. And whatever else. Central plate. Okay. Let's go exploring. We got a sample in here of a mosquito. Can't guarantee it's a mosquito. I was told by Pacific Plankton it was a mosquito. It could be anything. It looks like it's a mosquito though. Before I mounted, or before she had mounted it, or before I put it in the actual sputter coater, it had like zebra striped legs. So it's one of those mosquitoes with the zebra striped legs. So let's get it into the center. I will do an overview shot, as is the... It's got super long legs. And I feel like maybe now would be a good time to rotate it. I want to rotate counterclockwise, maybe 20 degrees. Still can't get all the leg in there. It looks like it's in focus enough, I guess. We're gonna give you a close-up of a mosquito, and then you're gonna think, these things are so cute, I don't know why I ever smashed one of them. Oh, her house is made of cookies. We won't see the feet, they are mostly water. But maybe if they desiccate, they'll desiccate into little stubby suction-y feet thingies. Yeah, it had stripy legs. Let's see. Halloween theme stream. Oh, I could have done it for Halloween. Last year we actually did a Halloween stream, and Mallory and I came in costumes, and I was dressed as a raven, like a crazy evil raven or something. I don't know. And Mallory was dressed as Wednesday from the Addams Family, I think. And she didn't like it because I practiced making myself like move like a bird. Like my head movements were bird-like on purpose. And like I was doing like very head-like like bird movements the entire time. Because I was in character. I'm a method actor. You put a costume on me and boom, I'm going to take on whatever role that is. And she didn't like that. And she also didn't like it when I was staring at her with my bird face. So she got freaked out by it. And then we had the lights dim and, you know, Halloween lights up, and it's kind of fun. I don't know. She didn't like it though. So my guess is she won't be back for Halloween stream this time. Annual day Diatoms. I should see if I could get Sylvia to come in for Halloween. She's gonna have a crazy costume again. So she's dressing as an axolotl. But I was told it's pronounced Axolotl or something like that. From Laura, that I've been pronouncing it wrong. So not my fault. I'm just gonna say it like a dumb American says things. That's my right as a dumb American. Ooh, you can see the eyes really clearly. That's nice. Okay, this is a mosquito. Let's go look at its eyes. I think everybody wants to see the eyes, right? That's usually where we'll start. Somewhere around the head. And then the wings are kind of fuzzy, which is cool. Also, they got fuzzy legs, like really cute fuzzy legs. You can see them right there. Look how cute and fuzzy they are. I guess maybe people might not think they're cute. I don't know. No telling how people will respond to some things. Ooh. Ooh. Their little scales look like butterfly scales almost. Very, very cool. Look up here. I'm going to get a close-up of those when we're done with the head. Maybe we can zoom in and look at these ones. Look at them. All over the place in here. Super cool. We can also zoom in a bit physically, which will actually increase the resolution of our image. I'm going to do that. We can move in at least 10 without worrying about hitting anything. So let's do that. there's just the eye. We can kind of zoom out so you can see the whole face.
Good news, everyone!
It's more or less where we were before. Just everything looks a little bit better because we're zoomed in. But you can see that their legs are composed of a bunch of little, they have a bunch of little scales. Like they look furry, but they're actually just like butterflies. They're actually little tiny scales. The scales aren't quite like butterflies. They have like a fringed outside edge, but very butterfly-like. I had no idea that was what they looked like either. Never looked at a mosquito under the light or under the SEM, so it's the first time I've actually looked at anything like
Good
this
news,
before.
everyone!
I mean, like I told you, I usually just smash them when I see them, try to get them to stop drinking my blood. So, thank you for the follow. Let's see. Oh, Axolotl is like, yeah, you know what it is. Okay. Aholate, I think is what she said they were pronounced. Way cuter than a mosquito. You don't like the mosquito? Okay. So these are the legs, and they're covered with, sorry, you can't see my mouse. These are the legs, and they're covered with these really interesting and intricate scales. And there's also some antennae in this image. They're coming out right here. They're kind of fuzzy. I think those are probably hairs, like, or hair-like things. But you can see they actually have a little spiral on them, like bee hairs kind of have these little spirals. These really long, cool, spirally looking bits. We'll zoom in and look at those, and then they've got these kind of little ports next to their antenna.
Well, pull
little
up a chair.
openings on the antenna ports. And I don't know if we'll be able to find the bit that drills into your body, but these are the eyes. These are the compound structures, are the eyes right here. So it's like eye, the other eye, and then this is the mouthy bits right here. And the proboscis, or the part that drills into you, is probably this thing right here. You can barely see it. But these scales are really cool. So I want to get a nice close-up of one of these mosquito scales. They have like a weird vibrating effect when you're far away from them. Like this pattern. It looks very strange. Because it just got really fine stripes. It's just like a byproduct of having fine stripes, so. It's a little deflated. Well, you know, vacuum. It's always a vacuum. They don't eat that much. You know what? Proboscis, yeah. If they didn't make me itch, I wouldn't mind them taking the blood. I feel like that's their critical mistake. If they'd just take the blood, I wouldn't mind. But the fact that it makes me have to itch, that's the part that I dislike. So, honestly, if they just wanted the blood, they could have it. If they didn't just be a jerk and make me, you know, have a reaction to having the blood extracted, I probably would be totally fine with it. I don't mind missing the blood. I'll make more. But making me scratch it, not cool. Like, they should have thought about that. That's a tactical error on their part. Because I'd have just been like, you can have some. Otherwise, would not have bothered me even a little. But make me itch? Mm-mm. forget it. I would rather smash you. Alright, let's get crazy. Now we're at levels that are beyond what any kind of normal microscope can handle, of course. Get this a little bit more tightly in focus. So the structure of these is a little different than a typical butterfly scale, but only barely. They're pretty similar in terms of the shape, except for, see these little like, they stick off little sort of ridges that stick off all the way outside the actual boundary of the scale. It doesn't happen with butterfly scales. That's nice. Thank you for following. The one Asomo. Asomo? Asomo? Asomo. Asomo. Also, the whole being massive vectors of disease. Unfortunate. Well, you know, you take a little blood, you give a little blood. I guess it's understandable, but if they just didn't make me scratch at it, I'd still be okay. Even with getting a disease, I'd be like, those guys just can't help it. But why do they gotta make me itch? No itchy diseases.
Good news, everyone.
They had a different approach, is what I'm saying. Yeah, they need a different life strategy. The disease vectors just got a little bit better this month, though. They just finally approved a malaria vaccine for children that in the World Health Organization did. So pretty soon, at least malaria, there's other diseases that are driven by mosquitoes, obviously, quite a few, but malaria is a problem, is a more serious problem, causes a lot of deaths, and also forces you to take that really nasty sunburn driving medication if you go to Africa. Will potentially be a thing of the past soon, which is super cool. Go science, right? Am I taking a photo? Well, of course I'm going to take a photo. Mosquito scales. Who knew that mosquitoes had such amazing, intricate, pretty little scales like butterflies do? Raise your hand if you did. Thanks for making streams like this. Oh, you're welcome. You know, I've never looked at a mosquito. I don't know why. I guess because I just didn't catch one. But you knew Pacific plankton. You raised 3 hands. I feel like you're overdoing it. If you thought about it, you probably would have realized that they did. But I doubt many people have ever looked this close at a mosquito. You looked at it on a microscope, but we're at 20,000 times, right? Oh no, this is 2,000, 3,000 times, roughly. So, never this close, of course. How hard is it to get a toy like the one I have? Well, it's easy. If you have $160,000, then you just go to the toy store and buy one. The hard part is getting the $160,000, honestly. And then learning how to use it, and then you have to buy the filaments and the nitrogen and the stubs and a sputter coater, so that's another $10,000. And the computer and the desk came with the SEM, though. So pretty easy to get the instrument if you have the money. I had to work to get the money, and then get the instrument, and then get the training, and then bring it to you. I had to learn how to stream. So putting it on the list of things to do in life. The other thing that you could do if you wanted to to have access to an SEM is to have friends who have one, you know, that are willing to like let you into their lab occasionally and let you look at whatever you want on there. Friends are free, and then you just have to get yourself to your friend's lab. So you can let them do all the hard work, and then you can just show up and push them off of their machine and be like, mine! And then occasionally let them use it, you know. Mosquito scales! That's what we were looking at. Can we get closer? Of course we can. Those little hairs are kind of interesting. Let's find one that would look good compositionally. Oh, look. Look at these hairs. These ones have lines on them. What are we looking at? This is on the back of the mosquito. Actually, I want to go look at these little feathery things out here. These look really cool. Let's just go look at the backside of, on the body and the abdomen of the mosquito. Look at these cool flame-like scales that they have out here. Okay. I know, maybe you think mosquitoes are ugly, but this is cool. Those are really cool little scales. Let's see, I need about 10 degrees rotated the other way. Ugh, too far. That's pretty good. So, I mean, even in things that are deadly, itchy, parasitic, little beasts like these, I think that's honestly really beautiful. There's sort of a beauty even in these ugly things. When you get on a small enough scale, the closer you get to something, the less ugly it appears. Just as a motto, I think. You can get one off of eBay for 1,000? Yeah, a broken one, right, Nid? Why do friends have to live far away? I may build one in your garage. Yeah, go ahead and build one in your garage. What could go wrong? Build a friend. You take it back. Ugly and beautiful. Why does small stuff look so trippy most of the time? I mean... this is just cool. You just need to get away from its face, you know. This mosquito's got a butter face, is what I'm saying. She's got a pretty abdomen. That face, though. I'm going to fix this image up a little in Photoshop and then colorize it. I think it's going to look really great. Just it has a lot of texture, and artistically I think it just looks amazing. So maybe we can do a zoom in on just like this part, actually, away from the scaly leg bits. Mosquito shaming. Yes, I'm mosquito shaming. The face is not as aesthetic as the flame scales, unfortunately. Like this. I'm really surprised we didn't get a googly eye request for the starfish. I feel like that would have been a good combination, but I didn't want to, prompt people to spend their channel points on it. This less attractive with googly eyes probably, but I think the starfish would have looked good with googly eyes, just saying. eBay has a Tescan Vega 2, that's the one before this, in good working condition, but the EDS does not function. Well, how much is it? Because Pacific Plankton is in the market for getting a scanning electron microscope, and we could do a Kickstarter to get her a scanning electron microscope. And the Vega 2 is pretty much like the Vega 3, except for it doesn't have all of the really cool rotation stuff. 39,000? Oh, okay. Yeah. Only 39,000 pack. That's affordable. Sell your car and your other car and then buy one and then drive the SEM around. The EDS tells you elemental information, so it's a tool that tells you, like, if I pointed it at this, it would say carbon, right? So, or if I pointed at a diatom, it'll say silica, oxygen. It tells you the elemental components of whatever the beam is sitting on. And the way that it does that is the electron beam that's coming in hits the sample, and it knocks electrons out of the material. That's what we're getting the topographic information for in order to get the three-dimensional picture. It's actually like topography, right? So we can't see through things. We can only see the surface. But when it knocks an electron out, I know we all have seen like a cartoon model of an atom where there's electrons that are going in sort of spheres around the outside of, you know, the middle part, the nucleus. And if you knock out one of the electrons from a cloud that's one of the lower clouds, what happens is one of the electrons from the outer clouds drops down and replaces it, because you can't have electrons out here when there's a greater sort of energy or interest in having something basically at a lower energy state. So when that electron moves from a higher energy state to a lower energy state, what happens is it has to give off energy. And it gives off what's called characteristic X-rays. So X-rays are the energy that's coming off of that electron when it moves from an outer shell to the next shell down. And if there's one that's knocked out from a really low level, right, then an electron moves from the outer shell, and then one moves from its outer shell, and one moves from the next outer shell. They just trickle their way down. And each one of those gives off characteristic X-rays. And that energy can then be determined by the little beam inside that's given off, that X-ray is given off. It's captured by this little tool in the, up here in the corner of the, so this down here, the one that looks like a circle, is actually the secondary detector. We can't see all of it because it's being blocked by the EDAX, the EDS detector. This tells us the electrons that are, the X-rays that are coming off, the characteristic X-rays. It tells us what that element is. Actually, it just kind of guesses at which element it is based on the energy being given off, because a lot of the electrons are coming through and out, and so a lot of energy is being radiating off, and then it has to sort of guess based on, you know, which shell it thinks that electron got kicked out of. So it gives you an estimate of what elements are present, and then you have to go, oh, it doesn't make any sense for there to be uranium in this sample, so it's probably this other element that it could also be. So it gives you options, basically. But ultimately, it's a tool that tells you what the composition of something is, right? So basically it gets you at compositional information rather than topographic information from SEM. It's really only useful if you're poking around at rocks and you want to see is there gold present, or if you're poking around at marine sample and you want to know what the composition of some organism's skeleton is that happens to be in your sample, right? So it's a little hairy butt. It's super bright, in part because I haven't auto-corrected for that yet, but also because there's a bunch of little spine-shaped things, and the electrons have a hard time dispersing from the surface gets charged up, and it have a hard time dispersing from surfaces that are spines. So now it looks kind of like underexposed as a result. It's having a hard time figuring out what the brightness should be. One of the things that's kind of neat is that a lot of insects have like claws at the ends of their feet, right? The end of their little... but mosquitoes really don't. Their legs just kind of end, because they need to land very gently. They don't need to cling on to things. They want to surprise attack you. So you can see they have their little butterfly scale legs, basically. Like super delicate. And here's a whole nest of them because they're all tangled together. just going to try to see if we could find the actual proboscis in here. This is coming out as an antenna. I don't see anything that would be used to drill. Oh, maybe it's this thing. It doesn't look like the others. I think it ends right here. I think it's this thing. This looks like the bit that goes into your body right here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it. I followed it from the mouth all the way down, so at least I'm under the impression that that's what that has to be. There's a little drill bit that it uses to dig around in you and steal your blood. It's confusing because it comes in through all these little legs and things. But I'm pretty sure that goes right back up to the mouth. And it doesn't look like it's the same thickness as the legs and everything else that's here, so I think that's likely to be it. Look, it's as scary as I thought it was going to look. Just like a little pointy thing. Let's see. Hairy butt. Yeah. Could I use screenshots from your streaming as inspiration or texture for my thesis project? I'm doing a micro-world simulation project in a game engine, and I think it would be very, very interesting to be inspired by such materials. Rudnima, if you join my Discord, which Pacific Plankton gave you the link for, I often will just post the pictures from my stream, so you don't need to screenshot. Or if you go to my Instagram, or if you follow me on Twitter, I also post those images directly to there. But if you want nice high-resolution versions of the images like the ones, below here that are colored, just contact me. I can share them with you for sure. And there's a bunch of really cool stuff in there. So, and we can chat a little bit about it if you join the Discord, or you just send me a private message, either through Twitch or through Discord. We can definitely chat about it. But absolutely. So. These little waves are annoying. I'm going to get rid of them. Then I'm going to collect this image, burn it with fire. The little pointy things are not that scary, yeah. Not at all. So, yeah, malaria vaccine sounds pretty cool to me too, because I go to Africa and I will take partial malaria vaccine over no vaccine, because I believe in science and I'm not some crazy anti-vaccine person. And malaria is a really terrible disease with a lot of consequences, especially for children. This mosquito's got some of its scales on its beak. I think probably they ended up there after it dies. I don't know what this fuzzy thing is that's right here. I was kind of curious what that was. Shadowfax, hello. It was manhandled? I think it was woman-handled. I actually never touched it. Yeah, there's a, like, micro art, I think, is the section that we posted into typically. Sometimes they just go in the general discussion part, but you can see a ton of the stuff that I post and then the images that are down below. A lot of times they show up there first, so I just give them to people if they ask. So especially if you're using it for science or for a thesis, absolutely feel free to use them. So oh, I think it's part of the wing. That's what that is. These are the legs in front of us and running every direction with the scales. And I think that little fuzzy bit is a bit of the wing. We'll take a look at it too. A little bit of an artifact in here from the charging. Mosquito beak. Here's the wing. Again, I think those are really cool. I know it's a undesirable organism, but those wings are beautiful. So I'm just running auto brightness contrast again to try to get the contrast a little bit better. It just saves me some work when I have to actually do the post-processing of images, but that also makes it look a lot cleaner and brighter for you guys. There, you can see how strong that improved the contrast correctly. So now it's actually got a nice clean, you can see the nice clean little ridges that run along the mosquito feathers, if you'd like. scales. Very cool. Like a feathered petticoat. You see a new point redemption. Yeah. I added googly eyes, which might look good on the wing. I don't know. We could put them on there. I don't want to deny people their googly eyes. Googly eyes cost more money. More channel point money. But if you're like Pacific Plankton, you probably have 100,000 points or more and then nothing to spend them on. So, give you something to do. So, you blew a bunch of your points last time. I've got like 120,000 points for Pacific Plankton's Pico points or whatever they are. Pico Plankton points. I'm just going to make her say Astrophylus 120,000 times in a row. You're going to need to either raise the points on that or put a timer delay so you can't keep requesting it. What should I make as points redemption? I don't know. Oh, you need ideas. Okay. I don't know. I was going to make it so people could redeem their points to buy my photos. You know, to get high resolution versions of the photos if they want. You could do that. That would also work. I mean, if they didn't want to win them through bingo and then get what you told them that they got, they could just be like, I want this as a photo, right? And just share with them a link and then it'll work. Mosquito Wing is what we're looking at. The wing of a mosquito. Very pretty. Okay. I don't know. Do you guys feel like we burned out the mosquito a little bit? I'm kind of out of cool things to look at on it. We could look up its nose or something here and get into these antenna things. I feel like we already got a picture of this though. Okay, let's move on. Goopy. Let's see. So I have some other samples on here. They're ones that when Pacific was here, she had on. They include these samples where we found all the dinoflagellates. I think are still on here. And also the cleaned versions of them, which we spend a little bit of time on, but not a lot. So if you have a burning desire to go back and look at the living material, we can do that. What was that? Is it a Dinoflagellate? Yeah, it's the one with the little whirly spine at the end. I think we looked at that one, right? It's more Dinoflagellates, because those are the pores from the surface of them. Yeah. It's a Paralia. I don't think we actually have any pictures of them from the top like this. This is the way I'm used to seeing them. I can recognize them immediately from valve face view, because they have this really intricate little poker chip structure in the middle. And then here are the interlocking sort of pillar spines around the outside edges. It's kind of dirty. We should try to find one of those in the clean material. See if I can find one of those. Let's go look at the clean material. Question is, where did I put it? 3? I think this is clean. Looks like mostly diatoms. It's Astrophylus. It's the Cyclotella that we always see. Chachawachiana or striata or something like that. Yes, tangential undulation. I thought you did a great job taking pictures while you're here, actually. Didn't even need my so-called expertise. You knew what you were looking for. And how hard is it to focus a camera? It's easy, right? Just a very expensive camera. Easy with a good teacher? Well, I'll have to find you one of those. Oh, the rotation was scary? I never find it to be that scary. Zooming in sometimes is scary. Which reminds me, we're still way out. We're half as close as we could be. So, which is okay, because then this whole thing is in focus at once, but, you know, we get a little bit, yeah, raising the stage. When we get a little bit, like I want to look at something really tiny, then I'm not close enough. I could be half as close. So, been streaming for 2 hours. Actually, when I was looking at the little areolae on the striate, I was like, why do these look so bad? Which shows you like how used to being very close I am. That like I realize when there's just like I can't get the range of things in focus that should be, that my brain is like, I could do better than this, and I started looking for why. So I knew which things were potential options, and I was like, oh yeah, we're not close enough. That's why. We could get closer. How close is a good question. We should give a shout out to Hannah and her song. Like that. That's how close. We had to record a link to the new version of it, the extended version that we're getting now. How long before Hannah lands? And then once she lands, how long before she's going to be able to stream for us again? Do you guys have something planned? I think that was when you guys were in Colorado. It was so many streams ago. 1.5 hours. You think she's going to want to like start streaming the moment she lands? We could raid her. We'll go straight into the channel. This is San Francisco Bay. I think they're calling it 14 or 15. I don't remember. I'll say 15. Okay, let's get closer. Now we're frighteningly close. Oh, it was 14. Okay. Oh, yeah. That's rough. Probably the last thing she wants to do is sit down and sing after being stuck on a plane for 24 hours or longer. Or even just traveling through airports and stuff. Ugh. It's stressful enough when you're not in the middle of a pandemic. I feel like the pandemic makes it worse, but I don't know. I haven't traveled since, you guys have done a lot of traveling. Nothing stops you. Just go traveling right through the pandemic. This is a really cool little Thalassiocyra. It's got the, it's the sort of golden colored one in my images that shows up occasionally down there. I believe it is Thalassiocira pacifica. Oh, look, there's like one weird elongated circle. And then if you look at the, these are processes. I think they're the strutted processes. They're on these little like pillar-like spines. They're really cool. Let's go looking for very clean, very interesting diatoms. Yeah? That's the same one right there, I believe. You can see those kind of spines are easy to pick out once you know what you're looking for. What's this? Oh, it's just at a weird angle. I'm always looking for things that have really cool textures, things that are at weird angles. For example, this Thalassiocira is at a pretty weird angle. And because it lets you see things a little bit differently. You can see these are the Rimoportula standing up off of the surface. This one has two. And then it lets you see things that you wouldn't normally be able to see. This is a ring of strutted processes that go around the outside edge right here. From the top, that might not be a very interesting looking diatom, because you would just see this sort of bland plate on the surface. And also it'd be kind of hard to tell how there's sort of a concentric undulation on it. I think it would be really hard to see that. Lacy girdle band, yeah. It's undulation day. She'll sleep about 14 hours after arriving. Okay. A lot of COVID tests. Ugh. Gotta be the least. Aside from all the people that may or may not be, like, you know, compliant. I guess they have to get the tests, but maybe they're better when you get to out of the US. You don't have as many stubborn people. We've already had two. I would argue three, because we saw an Astrophylus, which, you know, has a radial undulation. So I'm on the SEM, it's the middle of the day, and I haven't eaten lunch again. You're talking to the screen and your family thinks you're nuts. Are those things related? The entire time. So last night, I should show this. Let's see if I can find it in a way that while this is loading. Last night, one of my fellow streamers, Estrella, was drawing my daughter as a candy goblin, which is perfect for her because she is a little candy goblin. All she eats is candy if she can help it. That's what she would eat for dinner. And the entire time she would ask questions, and then my daughter would yell out the answers, and then I would have to transcribe whatever it was she was saying. But she was also talking to the screen, you know, like just as if the person could hear them. And it was super cute to be on the other side of it. It would have been really funny to stream, like Sylvia watching the stream, because I feel like that part was really quite cute. She got very excited. Of course, if somebody's drawing you as a goblin, that probably would make anybody excited. You know, to be drawn as a goblin is kind of a cool thing. Let's see if I can manage to show this. See if it will show it inside the SEM screen. Yeah, there it is. So I think that's showing for you. Yeah, okay. But she got really excited, and then Estrella, who's the artist, was kept asking her questions about like what color to make these scrunchies or what color to make the shirt or whatever. But she was just so excited by the idea of it that she was drawing along, and she would look up sometimes and she would be like, yes! Like total fist pumps, excited. So that was cute to see. Oops, let's see. Now I gotta get back to saving documents. Sorry, had to get rid of that image. Not get rid of it, but store it someplace. So we can go look around some more. Let's see what else we can find that's in the samples. These ones were hand-delivered. Usually when Pacific sends me samples, they come through the mail, but these ones are the hand-delivered ones, so different Thalassiosira. Some more of these things laying on their sides. Astrophylus hiding in there. It's a Selenius Spine, I think. Maybe? Oh, maybe it's a Rhizoselenia. Yeah, Selenius Spine. This Ditilum, like one of the Diatoms, were clearly playing ring toss, and they landed it right over the opening, right on the spine. This is an amphora, it looks like. A fabled amphora of the song, Diatoms Attack. Silicaflagellate, hiding here. Astrophylus again. It's the filled star-shaped cruciform diatom. I think you saw that one when you were looking around. And we were trying to figure out what it was. Ooh, look at this one. So, beam intensity 10, beam intensity 7. Let's see how much of a difference that makes. And if we were really zoomed in like this, like we're super close, probably even 7 isn't good enough for us. 5 would be good. You can start to see the little bumps on the spines and stuff in here. So this is 150,000 times magnification. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. We don't need to be quite that close. But I kind of like this texture with all the little holes everywhere. And maybe we'll try to pick some area that's a little bit cleaner. So this is about 40,000 times. Only 40,000, yeah. That's where I think we're gonna... I decided we would just take the picture at 40,000. The candy corn horns are the hallmark of the candy goblins that Estrella draws. And if you want to see her finish the drawing, that's a link to her account. You could give her a follow. I know she only has like 180 followers or something. She definitely needs more people. She does great work, and she just did the basic coloring this time, and then next week next Friday at 8, she's gonna do the other half of the drawing. She's gonna do the shadows and the making it look fancy, the part that, you know, takes real art skills to do on top of the drawing, right? Why is that the samples are coated in gold and not copper? You can use copper. It's an option. In fact, we have a silver target that you could use in our sputter coater, and I think we have a gold palladium target you could use in our target. The copper ones are actually cheaper than the gold ones. It's I guess just the tradition to try to get well, I was trained using a microscope that was that had gold palladium, and so gold and gold palladium are just the ones that we've always used. And I think all of the diatom papers that I read are always gold coated, or either gold or gold palladium coated. I don't know if there's a reason, like a legitimate reason why they use gold, not copper, because it seems like copper would be a little bit cheaper. But they definitely do make copper targets. They make copper and nickel, carbon. I think you can also get platinum as a target if you want to spend even more money, because gold is not actually the most expensive kind. And I think the gold palladium ones were only like $50 cheaper. So, but you know, I'm not totally sure why. So. So I don't know the, the reason why gold is selected necessarily. It just needs to be some kind of metal, to be honest. It could be that it's easier to work with. Like it may actually do a better job of evenly coating the samples or something like that. I don't know. So there's Paralia in here. Finding one that's standing on its face might be a little more challenging. I was not expecting that to be... I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure what genus that is. It's naviculoid in nature. I don't know what the actual, like... I guess it could be a navicula. The central part is not navicula-like. Be some weird marine benthic diatom. I don't know. Anna's not here, is she? Is she hiding in the chat somewhere? Pop out, tell us what it is. Because marine benthic diatom's definitely outside my realm of understanding. There's a diatom. You can see one of the spines sticking up, or I think it's probably the Rima portula. And there's another one over here. one pointed up and one pointed down on opposite sides. And then otherwise it's kind of peanut shaped. Not sure what that is. Oh, you think it's Actinopticus? Oh, yeah. Almost got a Paralia with the valve face. Instead we got the inside view filled with clay. There's a Paralia girdle view. A little teeny diatom. Covered in clay. Sorry, I'm just trying to see what's going on here in the inside of this guy. Thought I saw Kerbera. I think I still see the Kerbera. Just a little fuzzy. Let's see. I want to see what I can do about it. Do a little bit of auto gun heating. See if I can get that image to clean up a bit. I think there's a way you can get my attention, Pacific, if you use the @ symbol. I think maybe it chirps at me, but with the headphones on, it's kind of hard for me to hear even anything else, so. No, it didn't beep. I need to set it up to beep at me. It does it at home. It beeps at me. It's something to turn on in a setting somewhere. Let's see what happens. That's as good as I'm gonna get. Sorry, I just wanted to try to tweak my stigmation while I could. I'm always trying to touch up the image just a little bit to get it cleaner when I have a chance. It's kind of a cool looking diatom. It's got little tiny cribber you can barely see. Oh, it's the Cylindrotheca, right? We actually saw it's actually a Cylindrotheca. Cool. Alright, we'll get a picture. I know you wanted a picture of this one. So we'll get a picture of the central area, and then I'll look up at the actual ends, because I think that the interesting part's actually on the out on the ends of the valve. So it didn't beep, but I saw all kinds of things go flying by on the chat screen over there, and I figured, oh, she probably wants a picture of that. Do you ever clean the sputter coater? Yes? Oh, was that from up here? Sorry, hang on. Do people recycle the metals used for SEM samples? No, typically not. They're very, very, very thin layers of metal. The chemistry guy who was here about a month ago using the SEM wanted to know if I harvested the gold that was left on the glass. And I was like, it starts off as like a piece of foil that I run the current through, and the stuff that gets deposited on the glass is like angstroms thick. So yes, over a very long time, the internal parts of the sputter coater will be coated with a pretty thick layer of gold. But the glass on the outside edge is got to be cleaned regularly so we can see through it. So I think that, you know, in the very long run, the parts that are inside we might be able to take off. They're gold plated and be like, here's some bunch of gold on these. I don't know how you'd get it off of there though. So when we clean it, usually we clean it off of the glass with just ethanol, just wipes off. It's so thin. But the metal parts inside are gold plated now. Probably a fairly thick coat, but one piece of gold foil lasts me about a year, or a year and a half of sputter coating things. So it's probably a little thicker than foil, but not much. Yeah, the areolae are really bizarre. And also you can see these like lines or ridges that like warp around the middle from lighter bands where there's silica. It's pretty interesting. Cylindrotheca. Okay. And then let's go look up here. Because I think they get kind of interesting up at the ends. This is where I think they get kind of like, the Rhaphies go kind of crazy. It's doing a brightness contrast adjustment. It's a little under contrasted at the moment, so. So here's the Rhaphie. It runs up here, and then it kind of goes off to the edge of this. And my impression was that it starts to spiral. Like spiral around. This is the Rhaphie here. So it goes behind. And then here's the other one. Yeah, so it spirals around, basically. As you get towards those ends, it kind of just spirals around towards the outside edges. So here's the Rhaphie coming from one side, and this is the Rhaphie actually coming from the other side of the other skeleton, the other valve face coming around into, I think this is actually the Rhaphie sort of spinning from the other side into our field of view. It's kind of cool. You can see it comes back here and goes into the middle of this, and then here it just disappears around the outside edge of the valve. So they kind of get twisted around each other. Yeah, there's some girdle bands laying here as well. And then all of it is sitting on another diatom of some type, because I can see these like C-shaped pores in the background. I'm like, what are those for? They're sitting on the surface of some other diatom. A dog pile, yeah. Studio, hello. Pacific Plankton, you were streaming way early today. Yes. And then we went, so I was modding for Pacific, and then we went from her stream straight to the stream through the rating process. So we got a nice super long science morning for people if that's what you're into. You rated as science, yeah. For the first time ever, the raid went the other direction, from your channel to mine, and not from my channel to yours. So we have reverse polarity. Yeah, they make really neat textile patterns, and it actually makes my job pretty easy to make these pretty images down here below me. Start with good subject materials, and then you end up with good projects when you're done, right? Look at this. Oops. Hang on. That's how we roll in my channel. We do this. People just get their own commands, their own links. You should follow Studio Cornix on Instagram. Click that link and then just mash that follow button. Only hit it once though, because if you hit it more than once, it'll unfollow. Yeah, that's what I do. People just get their own commands in here. Like mid, got a command for that. Porcelain Giant was in here earlier. Look at that. I don't mess around. The instant somebody hangs out in my channel and they're a fellow streamer or has some content, you know, they get a command. You know, if I can help it. If I remember. Alright, zoom out, take a look at the Cylindrotheca from outer space here. It needs to go maybe like that. Helps if I turn it the right way. Oh, we were looking at the surface of this Thalassiosira here, I think. That's the background. Backdrop. We got smudgy clay bits all over the place. Good enough. Part of the plankton force. What are algae snacks? Are you gonna eat algae? Or they just look like algae? Oh yeah, recipes that use algae. Yeah, you can follow. When you type the word Discord, it makes a... They're not health foody. What does that mean? They've got cheese in them. Salty and good. It sounds like a description of Pacific plankton stream right there. Salty and good. Can you believe there was a Cylindrotheca just sitting here on this stub? We may have overlooked it while you were here, and we would have just moved right on with one of those. We've never seen Cylindrotheca in the SEM before, right? Tastes more like hot Cheetos than green smoothies. Okay. Is it spicy? When you say hot Cheetos, do you mean like warm Cheetos, or do you mean like burn your mouth? My wife, Carlin, has been helping one of these students in our department who is from India, and originally, and as a reward for helping her, the student has made, she made my wife some Indian food, and we like Indian food, so it's actually my favorite ethnic meal, and a meal grouping type, and there's not a lot of good places for Indian food in Terre Haute. I'm just going to go ahead and say 0, unless it's one of these students' houses, probably. You're not going to get very good Indian food here. And probably the expectation is that you wouldn't, right? It's Indiana. People don't like food with taste. But this is an Ellervecchia from the inside. Maybe. Looks super thick. It was hot. Like, my ability to handle spicy food is at a level that's slightly higher than my wife's, because I lived in New Mexico and kind of got adapted to hotter food while I was there. But, she had to eat something with it the whole time and drink a lot of water while she was eating it because it was too hot. So for me, it was tolerable with respect to the temperature, spiciness, I mean. But on the border, normally I would just be like, oh, my wife's being a wimp about it, but probably legitimately was pretty on the hot end of spicy for anybody, except for people who are kind of can't get enough hot food. Sometimes there's the people that kind of have to, it has to be so hot that human beings couldn't digest it. So sometimes you have that. On how you feel about hot food. Spicy hot, I mean. There's a Paralia on its side. We could almost see into it. Definitely one of the problems of looking at stuff like this in an SEM is that there's so much stuff, right, that you couldn't feasibly look through all of it at once. All of the cribra are broken out of that, unfortunately. This little guy again. More Paralia. And look at those Ignanthes. So these are Ignanthes. That's a Nitzia. Not sure what this is. Mysterious little guy. Some sort of Fragillaria, maybe? Definitely some marine diatom, benthic marine diatom that I don't recognize. That's what I get for looking in the marine realm. Oh, it's Astrophylus. Under a pile of junk. I don't know who made these stubs, but pile of junk everywhere. Ooh, cool. What a neat texture. Sweet. That's gonna look good. All right, so I'm taking a slightly longer image here because I haven't had a chance to talk for a bit. Scroll backwards. I hope you mean warm Cheetos, yeah. One of the recipes is warm bar nuts. Oh, cool. I'm going to make chlorella snacks next, which is more challenging because chlorella tastes like low tide. Ugh. Low tide flavor. Sweat on your scalp hot. I love spicy food. My husband toned it down for the guests. Okay, good. You're actually having Indian food this week. Huh? I like spicy. It's spicy is good. It's just like that really hot spicy is usually like it's a little too much if it's over the top, right? Let's see. I need to buckle down on my art making. I'm also co-leading a virtual artist residency program for the next 2 weeks. Neat. Teaching and microscopy for artist session. Oh, cool. I also want to make a few more algae roundel illustrations. Oh, cool. Very, very cool. Still no lunch, yeah. In addition to entertaining my last-minute DC guests. Oh. I usually do this the very demanding full-time job too. So there's that. Yeah, this is going to be a nice, cool textured photo. And also just kind of nice to watch it unfold. You know, when I was taking the picture, when I was focusing it, I wasn't actually looking at these little weird triangular patches that don't have any sort of ornamentation on them, but they stand out really strikingly now in this sort of slowed down view of it. And you can really see how those little things basically cover over the pores. They like stretch out, the volae stretch out over the pores to cover them. Pretty cool. Okay, well, I think as Pacific has pointed out, I've been streaming for a while now. Almost 3 hours. And so when it gets to this end of the picture, when it gets near the end of this picture, we'll probably do a raid. And we will carry you from my channel to Volcano Doc's channel. I think that's probably a good choice for people. she's on in the just chatting category, but a friend of the stream, so it would be nice to take people over there and we can continue, make it an entire science day, right? So you had Pacific Plankton early in the morning for a couple of hours, the little SEM time in the afternoon. We had some scientist guests in the channel as well. Paleontologizing dropped by, so I want to say thanks to him for that. We got follows from OKZZI and B1 Asomo and DB25 and Baby Cipri and UU5DX. Everybody trying to make it challenging for me to say their names. Paleontologizing also subscribed. We got a raid from Pacific Plankton, of course, and just before that raid, Ominously Ominous also gave us a follow. So thank you for all the follows. And I guess maybe I will try to eat some lunch. It's still kind of in the lunchtime range at 2:30, but I actually need to work on this poster for Laura soon to try to get it off to her. And I don't know that we're going to get a better photo than this one. I feel like this is the strong finish that we were looking for, was this gorgeous, highly textured diatom structure right here on the surface of a valve face of a centric diatom, which just has all kinds of crazy, interesting pattern on it that I love. So expect to see this one colorized in the near future and stuffed onto my Instagram page. If you did follow me in Discord, we had a couple of people drop by that said they wanted to either share stuff with me on Discord or wanted to just continue chatting or download the images. I do post these images in a much higher resolution than you can get off of my Instagram page if you're just like doing a screenshot from it into the Discord after I've edited them. So there's a lot of those in the micro art channel, and I just give them to people if you want to use them as a screensaver, or you want to put them in a talk, or use them as a backdrop, or I don't know, make your own poster, whatever. At some point soon, I will be putting together a calendar, or maybe 2 calendars of my images with nice high resolution things that you can download from my little calendar shop that I made last January or whatever. But I actually figured I should be on the ball and get the calendar for next year done now, instead of waiting till January. And maybe I'll do a couple. So the 2022 calendars should be coming out soon with some of these really nice diatom images. Maybe we'll do one that's mostly textures and some that actually are a little more sciencey, that have the diatom stuff on them. There's also my Redbubble shop. I put up some of my stuff as art you can download, or not download, but buy as stickers and magnets and cups and whatever. I also do some drawings of diatoms that are on there as well. So the colorized SEM images, some of those make it onto the Redbubble site if I think that they're fun, or if I think somebody might want to make a dress pattern out of this. I don't know. Some of the textures are really kind of cool. So, and this pattern is really neat, so I might try to actually do a rendering of this, just this really interesting texture, so we can have a version of it that doesn't have all the clay particles on it or whatever. We'll see. Are you looking at a mandala? No. We're looking at a diatom, of course. I only say of course because it's one of the things that we looked at. Earlier we looked at a sea star and a mosquito that were donated from the fish tank, and also from the mosquito was one that Pacific Plankton captured while she was here, and we never got a chance to look at it because we had so many things going on. Basically there was no time, but I'll put some stuff up using some of those cool mosquito images as well, probably to Instagram, maybe to my Twitter as well. So all right, while we're there, Hawaiian diatom shirt. Yes, exactly. They don't have a whole lot of clothing options, but some of them are kind of neat for Redbubble. Okay, So let's see, we can give a raid to Volcano Doc. Easy to type for me, Volcano Doc. And we'll go find her and raid her. I'll take all of my people over there and we can attack her. So get out your emotes. There's this raid, Diatom raid button you can push, and then you can just sprinkle in any Diatoms you like. From, if you have the Better TV emote package, you know, you can just throw Diatom things at her while we go raid her. You just got here a little too late, Bluesy. You know, I gotta eat lunch apparently, or maybe I will starve. You never know. I feel like I've got enough fat that I could probably manage for at least 3 or 4 days, but you know, probably a good idea to eat. How does what work? The BTTV, it's just an extension you can get in your browser, and then it will let you use any of the emotes for the channel, and you can just copy those. You could also just use them, like if you wanted to use the raid one, you can just use this, and it should show up for them if they have BTTV. So you can just copy and paste the code, which is like Diatom raid or something like that. Okay, we'll catch everybody next time, probably Wednesday for an SEM stream.